I went back to Boise earlier this year and I was just like visiting and we were just like playing around on the floor, like doing some aerials and stuff. And then one of the coaches was like, why don't you just go on the beam? And I was like, can I? So then I got on the beam and I was doing a few things and I was like, oh, I can kind of still do some stuff. So that kind of planted the seed in my head. Hi, my name's Courtney McGregor and I'm an artistic gymnast from New Zealand. Do you want to know anything else? I decided to come back to New Zealand, kind of like spur of the moment decision when COVID happened. All our classes moved online and then like a day later the New Zealand government said, get home while you can before we shut the borders. So mum and dad booked me a flight home and I kind of had to like pack up my whole life in the space of 24 hours. And in the back of my head I thought I was probably going to do a redshirt year just because I had like torn my Achilles in the first meet of the season. So then I got home and I was doing all my rehab and I was talking to the coaches at BSU, like keeping in contact and stuff, but they didn't have a scholarship for me to like go back. Eventually when they came back to me and said like, yeah, we have a scholarship, I was like, well, now I've had time to think about it, and it was pretty obvious like a few months later that this season wasn't going to be like a regular season, and so I thought it was probably better just to stay home and sort of like progress on to the next thing, which was like applying for med school and doing all of that. Looking back, it was a good decision, like it was a good time to move on, and then I sort of had to think like, am I going to continue gym in New Zealand while I do school? But it's so hard when you've come from somewhere that has like so much support around you. Then coming back to New Zealand where gym is such a small sport, it wasn't like there was heaps of support to do gym and school simultaneously anymore. So I decided to call it and start applying for med school. It was weird at the beginning. What do I want to do to keep myself like fit and healthy and like trying a bunch of other things, being like, oh, if I don't like it, I can just move on to the next thing because there's like some aspects of gym that you don't like, but you just have to get on with it. It was fun trying a bunch of new things. I had heaps of like realizations. Like I was in this like fitness class. It was supposed to be like go time and we were supposed to be going so hard, and this dude, he just like stopped and had a rest, and I was like, what is he doing? Like he's gonna get yelled at, and he didn't, obviously, because he was just like at a fitness class to like get fit. But I was just like, whoa, I have some reprogramming like in my brain to do, because I was just like, yeah, some of these things that we learn in gymnastics are not like normal. In New Zealand, it's like only the smartest of the smartest people go to med school. So like through high school, I didn't even consider it. But then, yeah, I went over and I started doing my health science degree, and I really love like the anatomy and physiology and like the pathophysiology and the microbiology, like all of those real sciencey classes. That sort of like introduced me to it, and then I was like, no, actually I think I can do this. But I think any sort of clinical degree as well was like just kind of a step up from my Bachelor of Science that I did before. I remember once I did this like personality test, so I was like in the 99th percentile for conscientiousness, and I feel like that has really helped me because I'm just like always like so on task and just like want to get stuff done. And my friends always joke because I'll be like, okay, I'm gonna go on TikTok until like 7:15 and then I'll go study, and then it hits 7:15 and I put my phone down and they're like, oh my gosh, like every time you're like, I'm like, I have to. It's just like how I'm programmed from gym, is just to like say that you're going to do something and then do it. And yeah, definitely the work ethic side of things. I think when I have to sit down and study for a long time, I'm like, okay, but like this is so much easier than like making yourself do a double twist in Yachenko right now, so you can't really complain. So I feel like after you do gymnastics, like anything is just like possible. Especially when you've done it like at the Olympics and you survived, and you're like, I thought I was gonna die because I was so scared at the Olympics, and I stayed on the beam, so like anything is possible. I went back to Boise earlier this year and I was just like visiting. So then I got on the beam and I was doing a few things and I was like, oh, I can kind of still do some stuff. When I got home, it was like September, and I asked the local gym if I could come and have a play. So just going in like once a week to see kind of like what I could still do. I didn't really have any intentions of like taking it super far, but then stuff started coming back, and then I was like, oh, maybe I do want to try. And everyone was saying, oh, you should just do it, because I was already like doing most of my old skills by then. And then it was like right around that time of I was contemplating it that Worlds happened, and there was like some results that meant New Zealand gets an Olympic ticket at Oceania's this year coming up, so I thought I'll just full send and see what happens. I think I started out just like doing a few skills on beam. Vault wasn't too bad. I think I did like 1 day of timers and I was like, cool, we're fine. But bar was the worst. Like I couldn't even do a kip cast. I could do a kip and then like get halfway up to a handstand when I first tried it and I was like, yeah, this is impossible. But I don't know, I just sort of started doing like a few more things and it kind of came back. I feel like in college you learn like a lot about like managing your body and stuff because you're competing so frequently. So I try to spread things out, like 3 events one day with floor and then the next day do vault, like so I'm not doing like too much legs at the same time. I think when I started off I was like going too ham on all the leaps and I was like, why did I do that to myself? Because then it was like, my hips were so sore, but I was like, oh, leaps are easy, I'll start with leaps. That's a mistake if you're trying to come back. Don't start with leaps. I'm trying like the switch leap mount on beam just because I used to do a front tuck, which is also a D, but you can connect stuff out of this, so then it's worth more. Yeah, I kind of changed stuff around on beam. I'm doing a side tummy now instead of a front tuck, but I don't know how long that's gonna stay in there because they're so inconsistent. But yeah, just kind of like swapping things around. But yeah, there has been some drama about the comeback so far. There's like a trial for the Oceania team coming up like end of January. And at the moment, I'm not allowed to attend. I'm trying to work through it. We have been for the last couple of months. I've just been like fighting for myself these past few months and it hasn't eventuated to anything yet, but we will see. All their selection procedures are so confusing. It's sort of like, if you didn't compete like the 2 years prior, then they like don't even, yeah, you can send videos, but apparently that doesn't mean anything. We'll see. Yeah, so I was hoping to compete at this trial like end of January and then maybe make it on the Oceania's team. That's also a trial for Pac Rim. So I was looking at maybe going to another Pac Rim, which would be cool. The thing is when you're like in a small country like New Zealand that has like no funding, you kind of have to be like super selective of what you want to go to. It's not like because one meet is less worthy than the other, but it's like you have to manage all of this stuff because we're on our own over here. Like being on the national team, like there's no funding, anything like that. So yeah, you got to support yourself through it.